Now we have more gas going off here. Let's see. Richard, is that your perspective there?
I am live at 4th and University. What you are seeing is that tension spilling over that we just talked about a while ago down at 4th and Union. People kept pushing the police line and pushing the police line and pushing the police line. Now we're seeing a wide variety of response from that police team. As you mentioned before, we've seen this. It is most likely a combination of perhaps smoke grenades and pepper gas in canisters that's being released.
Bienvenidos a la primera temporada de Sin Fronteras, la lucha social a través de Estados Unidos. En este primer capítulo nos encontraremos aquí, en la ciudad de Nueva York, para conocer distintas experiencias de organización y lucha. Compartiremos con nuestros amigos de Take Back the Bronx, de Occupy Wall Street y de la Peña del Bronx. Así que ya lo saben, esto es Sin Fronteras y no se lo pueden perder.
According to U.S. government data, the state of New York currently has a population of over 20 million inhabitants with a multiracial composition, where currently the Latino population of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico is in the lead, followed by African American, African, and Asian populations, while native ethnicities are now less than 1% of the total population. In this city, known as one of the capitals of the financial world, 20% of the population lives below the poverty line and in conditions of complete marginalization while the city carries an aggressive gentrification process. This has displaced a large segment of the working-class immigrant population surviving on wages not exceeding $1,400 a month. A single person needs $2,500 a month to survive. New York City is composed of 5 boroughs: the Bronx, a working-class neighborhood with a Puerto Rican and Dominican population; Manhattan, the financial and trade center where some of the American bourgeoisie lives, but it also consists of some neighborhoods of Asian workers in Chinatown and blacks in Harlem. Brooklyn, the largest neighborhood, varies greatly by class, race, and ethnic groups, including Caribbean, Jewish, Russian, and Polish populations. Queens, a neighborhood with Caribbean and Latin American concentration, and Staten Island, a white suburb.
Estamos junto a Chino y Jackie, ambos integrantes de Take Back the Bronx. Chino, Jackie, bienvenidos a Sin Fronteras. Cuéntanos, ¿cómo se inicia Take Back the Bronx? ¿Qué es Take Back the Bronx?
Take Back the Bronx, we're actually like a group that started in 2011, and we started out of Occupy the Bronx, but we broke with them because of our differing politics. We were very clearly anti-police, anti-politician, anti-nonprofit. We didn't want to work within the system in any way. So that has kind of like colored our politics like the whole time we have been a group. And we do organizing work in the community, in the Bronx. We've organized anti-policing stuff. We've organized some housing struggles with tenants, and we've also done some work with young people in the community as well.
Chino, ¿cómo describirías la situación actual de la brutalidad policial en Nueva York?
Yeah. The NYPD is really brutal, and it's also very powerful. The NYPD is it's the biggest police department in the country. It's 40,000 officers, so that's bigger than the armies of some countries. It's very well armed. It has lots of specialized units. And to deal with like neighborhoods like these parts of the South Bronx where there's not a lot of employment opportunities, there's not a lot of future for young people, the only way they have to stabilize the situation is just have a constant police presence on the street and have some way to intimidate and terrorize people, which for many years that's been stopping and frisking lots of people on the street. Now it changes over time. It can become more targeted. They can target young people that they say are involved in gangs and raid them in their apartments. But bottom line, the police here are very well armed. They have constant interactions with poor people, people of color, young people, and they shoot very often.
Particularly in New York City, and also in other large cities, but it started here. Broken windows policing, that is what it's called, and it's really specifically linked to capitalism and to neoliberalism and the rise of neoliberalism in New York, in this country, globally. And so, you know, we have to keep those relationships in mind, that policing was never good, but it really changed after the 70s, particularly like in the 80s when Broken Windows was created. It was created to specifically control segments of the population like this that are not useful to capitalism, that are not useful to capital, to the neoliberal ideology, you know, where they want to push and create, you know, a bigger gap between rich and poor, and, you know, everything that goes along with neoliberalism. Like this population and populations like this are almost like a threat to that, you know, like they're not able to, the system's not able to use them to generate income or money or whatever. So that's why this form of policing also exists here.
The police in New York City have always been terribly racist, terribly repressive, you know, and more people are hearing about that now, in part because of protests and in part because of the internet. That's good, you know, not gonna shit talk that, but at the same time, there's more and more military hardware in the hands of police officers. There's just technological changes. They have like more and more dangerous arms. So police now, I think statistically, they use their weapons less, but they fire 3 or 4 times as many bullets. That's why you see people being killed in hails like 40, 50 bullets, because they have guns that can fire that many off and they can reload them really quickly. So they have the ability to kill more effectively and also surveil. So they're like, NYPD now is monitoring kids' Facebook groups. If kids say something that they think they can misconstrue as being involved with a gang, they'll go knock down their door, mass arrest maybe 40 or 50 kids at once, which just happened in the public housing in Harlem. So they also have different systems of surveillance, repression, where people are not just living in danger of being beaten up or shot, but they're just in constant fear. They're always looking over their shoulders.
Jackie, ¿qué actividades están realizando hoy día en Take Back the Bronx?
So we have done quite a few different things. A lot of our work is around like anti-policing stuff. We've also done some tenant organizing, some work with young people in the community. And right now we are actually, we just got a space. So we just got the keys today and we can go and take a look.
Bueno, nos estaban contando sobre las actividades que están realizando en la actualidad. ¿Me puedes contar un poquito más sobre eso?
Sure, yeah. So like Jackie was saying, we've been doing a lot of work against police brutality. There's sort of a steady stream of incidents, kids getting beat up by cops, kids being harassed by police officers quite a bit. So we've done things in different neighborhoods, including a young man being killed named Marley Graham in the northern Bronx. We've also worked with tenants, done some tenant organizing. A lot of people live in buildings that are really subpar. The conditions are really bad. And the landlords are just taking the rent and running with it, basically. So we organize the tenants together to fight for their rights, maybe win repairs in their buildings, things like that. We've done a few other things. We've defended community gardens that were under threat of eviction, that were going to get kicked out. There's hundreds of community gardens across the Bronx, actually, established in the 70s. So there's a big, a lot of Black and Puerto Rican community gardens where people grow their own food, have their own community centers, so we defend those. And in this neighborhood in particular, here in Hunts Point, where we have the community center, where we hope to pretty soon, we want to continue some of the work we've been doing, which is trying to do some peace work between different crews of young people that have beef with one another, that fight with one another. The maybe conflict over territory or respect. Well, at the same time, the police harass them every day, you know, and benefit each time a young person hurts another young person or kills another young person. The police get more arrests, more people in cages.
Jackie, ustedes hablan de zonas libres de policías. ¿Me podrías contar un poco más sobre eso, por favor?
No cop zones are something that we began doing in the very beginning in 2011, and the idea was that we wanted to show that in our communities we can say no to the police and we can have like a space that is controlled by us, by the community. So we began doing it in the North Bronx actually, and we would just take a block and we would set up like a table. We had speakers, we had a mic, we had a DJ, and you know, we would put up a sign that said no cop zone. Basically, it was a space where we would tell people like who were passing by and stuff in the community, we were like, this is an open mic, this is an open space. Anybody who wants to take this and talk about the issues with the police, you are free to do it here. And this is not a space for the politicians or for, you know, the police or the state or, you know, any of those people. This is a space only for the community. So people would do it. Like a lot of young people too would get on the mic, and some of them like would just get on and the only thing they would say is fuck the police. But that was it. But there was something like very empowering about being able to say that openly in your own community, you know, in a space that we know is safe. So that's how it kind of started. And we did it for quite some time. And, you know, we were able to meet a lot of people through doing that. And we were able to expand a bit on the conversation around policing in the Bronx. So that was really helpful. You know, we took a little break from doing it for a while. But now that we have a space, like, we're hoping to be able to, like, really have that be one of the central things that we do. And we want to be known in the neighborhood for doing, like, the no cop zones, for being the people that do the anti-policing work. And in the neighborhood that we live in, you know, we already have a little bit of that because we've been doing work. And so people, when they see us, they say, oh, you guys are the ones who, you know, say fuck the police all the time. So that's how they associate us, you know. So that's really cool to see. But we want to be able to, like, have the space be associated with, like, anti-policing stuff as well.
Chino, Jackie, muchas gracias por su tiempo. A nuestros amigos de Sin Fronteras, sigan estando ahí, que esto está recién empezando.
Keep watching, no borders. Have a good one.
Bye.
Be safe.
Soy Víctor Toro Ramírez. Estoy aquí viviendo en el Bronx por casi 31 años en el sur del Bronx. Bueno, yo llegué después de haber estado en campos de concentraciones de la dictadura, en centros de tortura, y fui por varios países del mundo y llegué aquí arrancando de la Operación Cóndor en el 1983, y desde ese tiempo pues hago activismo de base aquí en esta comunidad del sur del Bronx. En Chile participé de la fundación del Movimiento de Izquierda Revolucionaria AMIR, y hasta el momento de mi arresto yo era miembro del Comité Central. Ya más era dirigente obrero y dirigente poblacional en varias zonas de Santiago de Chile, pero también a nivel nacional. Bueno, la Peña del Bronx nace como un movimiento del folclore latinoamericano, característico de lo que son las peñas en Chile o en cualquier país de América Latina, pero que posteriormente se fue transformando en un movimiento multiétnico, multicultural, multirracial, hasta llegar a desaparecer como peña y transformarse ya en el movimiento de la Peña del Bronx, que consiste en que brega con todos los problemas sociales, políticos, económicos, y está imbuido de todo lo que es la lucha de clase aquí en el interior de la entraña del monstruo. Nosotros hace muchos años que venimos preconizando, haciendo propaganda, explicando las experiencias del poder popular en Chile y en otros países de América Latina, porque nos parece que aquí en los Estados Unidos, por la existencia de un movimiento tan multifacético en nuestros barrios, en nuestras comunidades, es ideal el planteamiento y la necesidad de que surja una organización superior a las que han existido aquí históricamente. Y ese es el poder popular a nivel territorial, a nivel de los barrios, a nivel de las comunidades. Hay muchos levantamientos que ocurren diariamente aquí en Estados Unidos, pero sin brújula, sin proyecto histórico, sin organización que le dé continuidad a esas luchas y por tanto terminan con ser espontáneas y aunque juegan un papel importante como ha sido lo de Ferguson ahora o antes fue lo de Los Ángeles, el Alto Manhattan en Chicago, en varias ciudades aquí han habido levantamientos en los últimos años, pero que después de varias movilizaciones, grandes protestas, pues no queda mucho al final. A raíz de la brutalidad policial de los últimos tiempos, nosotros hemos convocado marchas y protestas aquí donde llegan alrededor de 600, 500 jóvenes y que se movilizan combativamente por diferentes calles del Bronx. Y más importante es la cantidad de pequeñas organizaciones que se dicen del Poder Popular, se dicen de la Peña del Bronx y que autónomamente pues están estructuradas en distintos barrios que cumplen distintas funciones. Algunos trabajan en la problemática de la mujer, otros trabajan en la problemática de los inmigrantes, otros trabajan en la problemática de la lucha salarial en los sindicatos, otros contra la brutalidad policial, etc. En todos los ámbitos de la lucha social hay alguna forma de organización donde la Peña está presente. Nosotros políticamente estamos claros cuáles son las fuerzas motrices de los cambios, ¿no? Pero las características también no nos hacemos los locos con la formación económico-social que existe aquí en Estados Unidos y que tiene esas características, la de ser una sociedad multiétnica, multirracial y multicultural. Y ahí hay clase obrera y ahí están los pobres, ahí están los negros discriminados, los latinos discriminados, ahí está la mujer doblemente oprimida, ahí está la juventud que la mitad está en la ciudad y la otra mitad está en las cárceles, etc. O sea, ahí está el conflicto social y por eso que la necesidad de una organización de poder popular, una organización multiétnica, multicultural y multirracial permite que todos congenien en un estilo de organización de este tipo y por eso que nosotros la empujamos con fuerza. La otra gran tarea que estamos trabajando es la del 1 de mayo, que el 1 de mayo de este año tiene que ser un 1 de mayo unido, un 1 de mayo en que la clase obrera lleve la voz cantante en todos los eventos que se desarrollen a nivel nacional. Y a nivel del trabajo simple, el trabajo sencillo, pues hacemos trabajo de educación política, educación popular, tratando de elevar el nivel de la conciencia política y de la conciencia de clase de la gente. Esa es una tarea diaria, permanente, siempre.
Hi, this is Blue Stockings. We're at 172 Allen Street on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. We are a radical bookstore that is collectively run and volunteer powered. And please continue to watch No Borders.
Nos encontramos en Wall Street junto a Mark Bray y Marisa Holmes, ambos anarquistas y participantes activos de lo que fue el movimiento Occupy Wall Street, que en septiembre del año 2011 ocupó precisamente estas calles, donde se encuentra situado uno de los principales centros financieros del mundo. ¿Cómo se inicia el movimiento Occupy Wall Street?
In July 2011, July 13th, there was an Adbusters call that went out on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and in the print edition of the magazine. And some people in New York heard about this through anti-austerity movements that had been ongoing against the budget cuts, etc. And so there was an interest in coming to Wall Street, the symbolic center of global capital, and to confront the crisis.
Recientemente publicaste el libro La traducción de la anarquía, el anarquismo en Occupy Wall Street. ¿Cuáles son las influencias del anarquismo en este movimiento?
Yeah, well, I think you can see in the United States and in many countries around the world the development of more of a horizontal anti-authoritarian socialist presence, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, the recognition by a lot of people that the old authoritarian Stalinist methods of doing socialism don't work. And so especially since the global justice movement of the late 90s, early 2000s, and subsequently the growth of things like Students for a Democratic Society, the anti-war movement, and so forth, you can see that anarchism has become the dominant ideological current of the radical left in the United States. So leading into Occupy Wall Street, it's no surprising then to see that so many anarchists were among the early organizers of the occupation and among its most active militants subsequently.
¿Qué tendencias del anarquismo fueron parte de este movimiento?
Well, there were a lot of different kinds of anarchists that were involved. I think most of the people who got involved were influenced by what David Graeber and other people have referred to as small A anarchism, the importance of participating in collective houses, food not bombs, punk rock culture, consensus assembly decision making, and other sorts of less formal structures. But I think there are also other people such as myself who are more influenced by anarchist communism, anarcho-syndicalism, and over time it really didn't matter too much which tendency people came from because I think we all managed to work together regardless.
Adbusters have put out this call for one demand, and there's a lot of conversation about what that would mean, whether we wanted one demand or many demands, or if we wanted demands at all, and time and again that conversation became one of the largest political conversations within Occupy Wall Street. And so from the left, definitely the fact that we did not end up having a demand or a set of demands or any kind of program, was very difficult for them to understand. At the time, I think the emphasis in the General Assembly was really on the method itself, on the self-organization of the park, and also on the process itself, and people getting to know each other and form these social bonds. And it was far less about developing a program and more about the experience itself and the methodology itself.
Another criticism that came from the more extreme radical left is that Occupy Wall Street wasn't sufficiently revolutionary, sufficiently radical, and explicitly anti-capitalist. And so for some people, if all of our messaging, all of our signs, if they all didn't say the most radical thing possible, then Occupy Wall Street was reformist and garbage. And so one of my motivations with the book is to show that if you want to have a mass movement, you need to find what kinds of issues people are interested in, get them involved in social struggle, and incorporate radical ideas into praxis, because if they're just ideas without being part of mass struggle, they don't mean anything.
Marisa, ¿cuál fue el principal debate que se produjo dentro de Occupy Wall Street?
Negotiating the inclusivity of the square and the exclusivity of assembly processes and working groups was a big issue. I also think that there were race and class and gender divisions that came up within the park. So internally there was a lot of discussion about that. How can we really address these systems of oppression in our day-to-day work in a prefigurative way? And we weren't necessarily successful. There were a lot of attempts to address these things, but ultimately, it's difficult in a short amount of time to tackle all systems of oppression, especially when you're under the constant repression of the state and agents of the state.
¿Cuáles fueron las principales lecciones que se pudieron obtener de este movimiento?
Well, I think that we learned that you need to, on the one hand, create spaces for a lot of people to participate, but on the other hand, expect that a lot of people aren't going to be experienced, aren't going to necessarily be used to different kinds of social struggle, and create ways for them to get involved that use their skills, use their experiences without expecting that you can change the world overnight. I think sometimes Occupy Wall Street moved a little too fast, a little too quickly, but it was a challenge, and nevertheless I think we've really influenced a whole new generation of radicals that will create the social movements in years to come.
Estamos llegando al final de nuestro primer capítulo y para cerrar hemos invitado a IB, un rapero que con sus letras ha acompañado las luchas contra la brutalidad policial aquí en el Bronx. ¿Qué es para ti hacer rap en el Bronx?
Well, for me, being a rapper in the Bronx is like being a rapper anywhere, it give me the opportunity to express myself, express what's going on in my surroundings, because that's all I put in my music, things that's going on, current events, and out here in the Bronx, it's a lot of issues that's going on to where that needs to be touched, so I'm privileged to be able to rap out here and, give the people what's going on.
The cops treat us up here, asking us how long we're gonna be here. This is America, the land of the free and the brave. We're free, right?
Bueno, ahí en medio de este contexto vamos a continuar con la entrevista. ¿De qué hablan tus letras?
Well, when it comes to my music, lately I've been talking about a lot of anti-police movement, especially with the No Cop Zone movement that we got going on. So that's really what it's all about right now. It's just spreading the word, telling people, letting them know it's time for us to stand up. No more fear, none of that. No Cop Zone, which is a mentality more than anything. It's bigger than the police. It's about starting our own businesses, employing our own, taking over our community, showing them that we don't need them. So that's mainly what I put in my music. Because I got my own little strategy formulated, and music is a part of it. Because, through media, that's how they got us poisoned in the first place. Through the music, they put millions into hip-hop so they could control it and keep our minds damned. So me, I try to reverse that. And I don't got the millions, but, I got the power in the people. So I build with my people and try to keep it going and spread the message through my music to embed it in the people's head, especially the kids. Because that's what it's about.
Tú participas en las zonas libres de policía. Cuéntanos un poco de eso.
Well, I'm real active. My family, I deal with a group called Take Back the Bronx, and we started the No Cop Zone movement. We everywhere. We deal with a bunch of other community activists, Trayvon Martin Committee, the Cop Watch Committee. So, together we just form and we unite and we do a lot of things. We, when the Mike Brown verdict came in, we shut down the Brooklyn Bridge, the FDR Bridge, protests. We try to keep it peaceful, but really it needs to erupt. We need to burn everything down and build it back up, That's the way I see it. I mean, burning could be physical as well as mentally. So we gotta destroy what was built to destroy us. We gotta destroy that and build something else that was built to build us. So, my involvement personally is just building with people, building with my people, keeping positivity out there and showing them hope that it's a better way, that we could do for ourselves. So that's about it.
Bueno, esto ya está finalizando, pero para cerrar los dejamos con IB. Nos vemos en el siguiente capítulo.
Peace to the guard, know what I'm saying? It's the No Cop Zone 7 Squad. The guard I be the guard forever you need the law. Down here in the belly of the beast in Smith State Prison down in Georgia. The depths of the plantation. Still letting that energy flow freely all over the universe. Make sure y'all do the knowledge to this shit divine, man, so you can see what the guard see. And I'll be supreme.
Let's set a blaze in this motherfucker. Show them pigs if they fuck with one of us. Hella raised in this motherfucker. We done suffered hella days in this motherfucker. Now it's time to turn the page in this motherfucking book that we call life. New chapters. I chase the same game that corrupted these new rappers. The money, the fame, which abducted their minds after. But me, I'm a rebel himself, sent here to go to war with the devil himself. You know the story, how I be God. Competition best be warned. If you ain't about this revolution, motherfucker, be gone. It ain't a problem in the hood that I don't speak on. I'ma keep speaking my peace till them problems is gone. Still screaming, fuck police, that's word to the squad. Yeah, I stomped through the yards where the rebels went hard. Still screaming, fuck police, that's word to the squad. I can't wait till the day we go and open them gates and get my niggas from up out of the state. I know that there'll soon be a time when the ghetto escape, taking back what was ours from the gate. Competition better not even step a foot in my way. My energy is on a whole nother plane. I'm down to lose it all so my 7th squad army could gain and build on to a whole nother plane.
I'm so planet, no love for the other side. I sip slow when my mother cried, cause that's the day my brother died. But soul whispers in the background, so fall back with the dap pan. That's revolute and stand your ground when they do it, they so abusive. We used to it, we start looting. That's so stupid, bang for your brother. Enlighten all the others, I'm a wise dog, you dealing with a sharp motherfucker. Reparations are reinstated, it's due payment. No banana in the tailpipe, lame shit. We keep the water, essential key element. Let's push forward until they all irrelevant. And I ain't waiting for no miracle that's heaven sent. I wanna see the laws of nature set the precedent. And yo, they murder the youth, they lie when they shoot. I guess they felt the truth on Tompkins Avenue.
I can't wait till the day we go and open them gates and get my niggas from up out of the state. I know that there'll soon be a time when the ghetto escape, taking back what was ours from the gate. Competition better not even step a foot in my way. My energy is on a whole nother plane. I'm down to lose it all so my 7th squad army could gain